Hey guys, oh my gosh, welcome to another episode of Reaper God Videos, aka the Century Countess. I just had my brain jogged. I was watching a movie, and it was an old, one of those old black and white movies, kind of like one of those old, I think they call them old dark house films, because it's like murder mystery, nothing supernatural, probably like you either have like a deformed or deformed or scarred up face character that's like supposed to make people think it's they're a monster or something, but it's not, just to add a sinister type of feel, but it's actually just a regular human person that just goes cray-cray when they get drunk. But anyway, the movie jogged my memory when one of the characters walks out in their costume, or I should say their evening gown, and I have to share this because it gave me some idea vibes. It gave me some idea vibes. I'm going to go grab something to drink, and I'm going to share with you this story. This is actually a real story. I'm going to go from memory because I was very young when this happened, so buckle up. You're going to love this. Alright, we have our tap water that we chilled. Yes, tap water. Might as well. We can't afford a filter right now. Anyway, so this story this happened when I was very, very young. It was, I don't know how old I was, but I'm going to say sometime around kindergarten or right before kindergarten. So this is like very, very, very long time ago. So it's kind of, the main subject of it was my mother wanted to take me to a lot of doctors. We're not going to go into that. That's a whole other story for a whole other day. But one of the doctor places, I'm telling you the honest truth, I think it was either a special home or it was a residence that was also a doctor's office, and the relatives of this doctor lived in that house. But I'm telling you, when I walked in, it was like something from, best way to describe it, like the mansion you would see in Clue. It was something like that, but very grand, or almost like a golden age, like, basically old money. It looked like old money, time capsuled in 1930s. From what I can remember. And the reason why I refer to it as 1930s is because the whole movie that I saw, even though it was black and white, the scenery, the whole furniture setup looked like that. So we're talking about like a big house, old money, and there was one modern, well, we're going to refer to it as that time as a modern doctor's office, while everything else looked like it was from another time. It looked like it was old and ancient. I felt like I was in a museum. Now, on to the main subject. So, and I'm telling you, I was scared to death. So when I was very young, I was scared of old people for some reason. I do not know why. So when I see these elderly women, I think there was two of them at the time, and then a third one showed up. And I think all three were sisters, and I think the two women that were like there, that were there presently, were twins. They were elderly, but the way they looked, and I will say this, I saw Dracula. I saw Bela Lugosi Dracula at a young age. I've seen horror movies at a young age, so it's like, so when I saw these two women with, I'm going to say, kind of finger wavy, old actress hairstyles, super gray, hair thinning, makeup, basically, and these nightgowns with trains, like literally, I don't know if they were actual nightgowns. I thought they were I think at the time they were evening wear, but I think thinking as an adult now, I think they were like very old style nightgowns that were just well kept, and or they were custom made based on a certain fashion that these women did not want to give up. But yeah, these women were like, basically you could say time capsules of the 1930s, the grandma edition. And I literally thought these women were like vampire women because the way they kind of reminded me of the three brides in the Bela Lugosi movie. You only see in one scene, but they haven't had blood in a while, so they're aged and all shriveled up. And they were kind of like, the curtains were draped, the curtains were drawn, but there was a thin layer, so there was a little bit of light that was beaming in, but not enough. And these women were like walking around, from what I can remember, they walked around like they owned the place. Very nice women from what I can remember. I think one of them offered me a cookie or something. I remember one of them made an offer of a cookie or a brownie or something. And every time when I just could not keep my eyes off them because I did not know if these women were going to transform into something. And I was nervous. I was seriously nervous. And all I know is that they had like their nightgown things had like long trains going on. We finally see the doctor, and the doctor's the first person in that house that actually looked like a normal lady. From what I can remember, she had reddish hair that was like pulled up nicely. She had the actual doctor's outfit, like the doctor white coat, and then I think she either had a white button blouse on and either black slacks or a black skirt, but she was just a typical doctor. But she looked kind of she not done up, but the way her hair was, it was like I want to say kind of like not a super high, but just an elaborate kind of updo bun thing. And I was but she looked normal. I was very comfortable when we got into that small room, which looked like an actual doctor's office. It felt like we were in a doctor's office as soon as we got in that room, while everything else outside that doctor's office, I felt like I was in Dracula's house. I had to share that with you guys. I cannot remember, like I said, and I'm not going to go into details about it, my mother constantly wanted to take me to doctors. For some, I'm just going to keep it brief. She basically wanted me to be sick. She wanted the doctors to find something. I don't know what, but I'm not going to go into details because, like I said, this is a whole other story, and we're not going to make this a sad, violent story about my life. We're talking about from what I remember from that doctor's visit, which like I said, which was a very long time ago, so I'm only remembering. I can't remember the exterior of the building. I cannot remember anything else except we walked in and it felt like we had just walked into Dracula's house, and I just met all three of his brides, 2 out of the 3. And then finally when we were leaving, this third lady walked in, and I'm telling you, I do not know if she was an actress or if she was something, but she had I think it was a real fur coat. She was wearing a vintage suit, like a vintage dress suit, like a, skirt and top with a fancy blouse, and she literally, like I said, she looked like 1930s. She actually had a little hat. Her hair was done the same way, and she was the only one that was like kind of more livelier, while these 2 older women approached her, and they were like coming, they were like, here she was in the middle, and these 2 women walking towards her, and I swear to you, I thought she was normal, but the way these 2 women walked towards her, I was like, she must be like the head witch or something. But they all, from what I remember, they all looked related, and I could be wrong because, like I said, this was years ago, and to me, anyone who was looked the same. They were either a witch or a vampire to me. But it also might have been because they were wearing very, very exaggerated makeup, and the makeup was from what I remember, was literally the 30 style, because I also seen 1930 theme black and white films when I was that young as well. So they looked like those women, but they looked like they were old, the granny edition of those women. And like I said, these 3 women looked like the brides of Dracula, except one looked more... I assumed it was normal dress, because I remember watching another vampire movie with Bela Lugosi, and there was a lady that wore an outfit similar to that. And I was like, oh... So, I was glad we got out of there, and I don't think we ever went back there, because I don't think my mother was pleased with whatever the results were. All I can remember was it was a regular physical, and I got some cough syrup, and that was about it that I can remember. I don't think I ever got that cookie. I don't think I ever got that cookie from that older lady, and if I did, I probably would have, cried when she came towards me with a tray of them. But all I remember, this memory was woken up when I watched this movie tonight, and I had to share it with you guys, because I was thinking, I could probably use what I remember and turn it into a horror story. And it's been a while since I've done a really awful horror tale episode, so I was thinking maybe I should do something that an old house, and it's a time capsule, and the people who's lived there for years and years have not changed their fashions or their looks, and so they look like living time capsules, but it's more of a ghoulish look. And it's whenever they go out, people are unnerved or anything when they see them, because it's it's not just a time capsule, but it's very out there or something. I don't know, but I just wanted to share that with you guys, because it was a thing that I just literally it popped in my head. And thinking of it now, it's if I had seen them now as an adult, I would have been hey, that's when I want to be when I get old. I would love to maintain a glamour look, because I'm assuming these women, they're probably long dead now, but it's literally, I'm wow, I would like to know their secret, how they, if those were their original nightgowns when they were young, back when they were young, I would love to know how they kept those clothes in good shape if they constantly wear them on a daily basis, because those clothes look good. From what I remember, those clothes looked very nice. But like I said, at the time, I didn't assume they were nightgowns. I thought they were vampire bride dresses because of the long train thing and the way that they kind of looked. And it was just, like I said, as a kid, it was scary, but, thinking of it now, it was wow, these women were elegant, and they maintained their fashion. It's from what I can remember, they were obviously outdated, but they I don't want to say they wore it well, but it's I kudos to them. That's the best way I could say it. Kudos to them, because damn. But but oh my gosh, it was something I wanted to share with you guys, and I'm gonna end it now. And if you want to hear more crazy stories like that, if my memory jogs on something else, I'll let you guys know. I'll talk about it. So let me know. I don't think there was anything I don't recall. I can't remember anything as of right now if there was anything crazy like that or anything similar to that experience. But all I can remember, it was the weirdest doctor's office ever. And I literally think I asked my mother when we got out of there, is that doctor lady living with Dracula or something? I literally scared to death. And then Literally was scared to death, and I think that made me more scared of doctors as a kid, because I thought because my mother, like I said, my mother took me to a lot of doctors as a kid, and I was scared to death she was going to take me back to that place. And but I think that was the only time we ever went to that doctor, and oh my gosh, what a story. What an experience. Now it's like I'd be lucky if ever, I mean, today, if I wanted to see something even close to that type of house, it would be a museum. It would be a house museum. It would be a house that was turned into a museum. That's as close as I can get to anything that, anything like that now. And I guarantee you it cost a lot of money just to get inside a museum like that. But yeah, that was my experience in literally a place that in a place like that from my memory. But anyway, you guys have a great weekend. Please like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.